Oh, we are live now. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hi. Hi, Nikolett.
Hi, how are you, Brendon?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm actually amazing. Let me check my internet for just a sec, because sometimes I make some mistake. Okay, I can hear you now. Okay, perfect.
Okay,
I'm
good.
uh, I'm actually super excited for this creation because I I was wondering before we started what we're gonna talk about today. Like, I would love to ask some questions. And when we set it up, this Facebook Live, and actually it's not also in YouTube, so YouTube Live, I I was thinking like we really do have a similar experiences in the past. Like me, I was an alcoholic. I was drinking and I was doing drugs also and
Hmm.
smoking and getting out of that and then creating my life is just a huge part of who I'm being now. And it's the same for you. And I think we have a lot to discuss tonight.
Truly. And you know what pops then with you saying that actually too is I did this session yesterday with this girl, 16-year-old girl, and she has been doing drugs and and weed and alcohol and stuff, and she asked for help, and I was like, yep, I'll help, and we did this session. And I wanted to sit there and cry the whole time, but I was holding it back because I was like, okay, what can I be for this girl? Um, but the reason for me fighting back tears was all I could see was the beauty of this creature's being. All she could see was the wrongness. And it was
Hmm.
so interesting to have that different perspective of seeing what she's actually capable of versus seeing what she's choosing and seeing what she thinks she's not capable of. And then, throughout this session, kind of just telling her my story, just being like, hey, I've been there too, and here's what I chose. I've been there too, and here's what I did. And it was so cool at the end of it. Her mum texted me after it, and she was like, she went to a meeting, she went to this meeting, she got herself a sponsor, and and she was like, what else can I do? And I said, okay, now it's up to her, be an allowance. But man, there's so many people in the world right now where you see yourself one way, but who you actually are is a very different story.
Hmm. Wow.
And
Wow.
I
Can
don't
you
know about you,
imagine?
but I saw myself one way.
Yeah. Can you imagine you being 16 and having this support? Like,
Uh yeah, I don't know if I can. Yeah, like I think back at 16 and I was like, yeah, man, it was my world was in turmoil. I was, yeah, it was an
hmm.
interesting time.
Wow. It's actually interesting what you said because mine the same. I remember I was 14 when it was just enough for me from my family and everything. And I got to high school and actually like we kind of creating a little inside behind the scenes with me, like who was this person before and who I am today. And like, it's just interesting. And so this guy who are doing these interviews, he actually went back to my high school, talked to the director of the school. And I talked to the guy when we were at the castle. He came to the castle also to the BU class, and I was like, "Hey, well, how was it?" And he's like, "It's gonna be interesting." I'm like, "Okay, I want to know now what he said." And he told me that the director didn't say anything bad, but he actually said a couple of things about my personality back then. And I'm so curious because I remember myself, I was just always so loud. I never had the first class. Every day I had the second class only because my train was delayed every day.
Uh-huh.
So when all the other, classes were running, me and three other girls, we were sitting outside of the classroom and we were always so loud. I mean, I was. And the director of the school came out of his office and he's like, Nikolett, just come into my office, please. And I was sitting at his desk and he was sitting on his couch working. And I was like, you have to study, like sit there and shut up. And I just couldn't shut up. I was always the worst. of divorce, but not like a bad kid. I had so many and so much things going on in my world all the time, and it was just too small for me. Always,
Yeah.
like it was just too small for me.
Well, and I think that part is a big thing. It's too small for me. And I see that's where a lot of people have troubles with their life is, you know, they're trying to create within a box and it's just too small. And so the destruction comes from there's no room to move. It's like it's almost like you're trapping your being within these structures that we create. And all you want to do is somehow fight your way out of it, as if fight is the way to get out of anything. And it's, I know for me personally, that when my life is working is when I'm not making it about my life working. You know, when my life is working, it's when it's about the world. It's when it's not just about me. And I'm really grateful for, I'm just over a couple of years sober now. And in the beginning, it was not easy. But one of the things I'd realized I'd gotten myself into was I'd created this insular world of myself. It was this kind of keeping me in and keeping everything else out. And when I started looking at that, I had to get in my world really accountable with that. And I think that was a big first step for me, was going, okay, so what am I trying to exclude out of my life here? And in that, what if we all, well, I don't even know how to put it, because it's like, what if you could begin to recognize that you could ask for something far bigger than what you've decided you can have. And yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Personally, if I think about my life, I don't know if I told you that story when my parents got divorced. And so the exact day when my mother left with my sister, we were like two sisters back then, and I stayed with my dad. And I remember they left, and me and my dad walked to the playground, and I was swinging, and my dad was there, like being so sad and, kind of feeling like he was the victim of all. And I was just so happy. Even though I could just see the future, what that choice created. And I didn't have the word for, saying what was going on. But I remember like going so fast, and my dad was like, what's going on? And I was like, I feel like your word is just too small for me. And my dad actually remembers that, me saying that. He's like, you always said that this is what we are creating here is just too small for you. And I was always dreaming about something bigger, and I couldn't put it into words, but I always knew there is something else. And, as I grew up and I started living this life, and I had all these structures, points of views, and my life was just too small for me always. And I could perceive so many things. And no one ever came to me saying, you're not wrong, nothing wrong with you. It's not you. And I felt always depressed. I like to be alone all of my life, but now I see the difference, that now I like to hang out with myself because I like myself. But before I was like, I don't like this life. Like, what is this? I don't want to be around people because I just don't feel good.
Yeah.
And this is when I started doing drugs for years. And then when I stopped doing drugs, I was drinking every single day. I remember I used to be a hairdresser back then, and I had a scooter, and I finished at work. I jumped on my scooter and going, I wanted every day, I just wanted nothing but go home. So I went home, but on the way I always stopped by a grocery store. And I remember one time I stopped by and I stepped in, and the guy looked at me and he just grabbed the wine. And I was like, Fuck. Oh no. Okay. There is a little thing in here with this wine. And I realized I was drunk every single day for years. Like every single day of my life. It was just, and my body was exhausted. And it, every single night I promised to myself, okay, I'm not gonna drink ever again. That was the last time. And then the next night, the same thing happened. And
I
I
did the
actually thought,
same with that. I get it.
and I actually thought it's not possible to get out of that. Like I couldn't imagine that there will be one day when I don't want to have a glass of wine when I'm having lunch with my friends. I just couldn't imagine that that day is gonna come. It was so deep. It was just so. It was really interesting, and that's why we set it up this live, talking about, is it actually possible to reboot your life, and is it actually possible to restart and having an amazing life?
Yeah, and it is, but the thing with it is, for each and every one of us, we're the only one that can choose it. I'm really grateful for one of the things Gary Douglas said to me in the beginning of my sobriety, because all I wanted was someone else to do it for me. Like, can I just do this for, if I had it my way at that time, it would have been, can you just put me in a rehab for a month and then I'll be fixed and then I'll be fine. And then I can just go about living my life the way that I lived it. And he said, look, I can't help you with this. You have to do this on your own. And it wasn't so much that I had to be alone and had to be separate from everyone and everything, but I had to be the one making the choices. And so with rebooting your life, like seeing what you have created, it's an inspiration. It truly is. Like seeing the photo of you guys at the castle, booking that place out and the classes that you've done. And I even, to be honest with you, like I feel in my world, like I get where more of a sense of awareness of where I kind of have this thing in my world that pops up and goes, oh, I could never create that. And so but luckily enough now I'm much more present in my life and I can go, wait a minute, like who does that belong to? And where does that come from? And is that truly my point of view, or is that some structure or some, am I trying to create a reality based on somebody else's point of view? And which is why I love Access, because if we look at that part alone, is how much do a lot of us allow that doubt, allow that sense of being less than, allow that judgment of ourselves to be the thing that dictates our choices and runs our lives. And that right there, if you let it, it will, and it does. And that's what creates the lack that we have. And so, but I get this with a lot of people is, a lot of people would see that, or a lot of people would see somebody they look up to, and rather than look at it and go, wow, that is so inspiring. Like, what would it take for me to step into and be that? What would it take for, like, oh, what would it take for me to choose that? I wonder what I'd have to be willing to be to actually create that as my life too, or something greater, or something that I've always dreamed of. But what we tend to do is we go to comparison and judgment instead, as if that does anything. And so I want to say something on this, because I know a lot of us do it. And I have a lot throughout my life. And one of the things that I learned and realized is that anything that you can see or be aware of in somebody else, the only reason you can see it or be aware of it is because you are it too. Yeah. So rather than, but see, as soon as we go to comparison and judgment, we kill it. We kill the capacity we have to be it. So rather than that, if you see something like, say, in someone like Nikolett, someone like myself, someone out there that you're like, oh man, that looks cool. Like, where am I that I haven't acknowledged? And what could I choose today that would allow me to become more of it?
I like what you just said, because I remember when I had smaller classes and I wanted to grow my classes. I couldn't imagine how I can do that. I remember my world was so much smaller than now, with everything, like with every single choice I made, meaning the, I don't know, the soap I was using, or the,
Yeah.
you know, the everything, like a small choices. And I remember there is Prokop Dora, who is a Hungarian CF, and she has a beautiful venue here in Budapest. It's an apartment. It's right on the Danube, the bank of the Danube, and it's super close from the Parliament building. And it's like a good location, and the apartment is super interesting. It's like amazing, and you can use it as a venue because it has a bedroom and it has like a big living room area. And I'm like, one day I'm going to have a class there. And I remember I went there for the first time when I chose it for my class. It was just a big deal for me. I never paid that amount of money for anything. And she said, you can sleep here because you rented the whole place. I'm like, wow, that's cool. So I slept there, and you know, everything they had, all the soaps. It was like the towels and things. And I was like, oh my God, I love this thing. I wish I could create this, like, or that would be my life. In my whole entire life, I love beautiful things, like good smell and nice furniture, and it's all of that. And just being in that space. And you know, when I left, I was talking to my friends about that experience, and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I have this good taste than Dory has. And my friends, they were like, you can't see it if you are not that. Like, I'm like, oh, because I'm just like this girl from the village, and I'm like, I'm not that, you know, fancy or elegant or blah, blah, blah. And when they said that, I realized, oh my God, you don't see something if it's not in your world. So if you see something, like someone has something bigger, like a bigger life, a nicer, like a good relationship or anything, like you are actually capable of creating. Like do you know the red card theory?
The what?
Do you know the red card theory?
No.
No. Okay. How many red cards did you see today?
None. I don't know.
Okay. If I would tell you, okay, Brendon, you got $10,000 for every each red card you saw on the way here, whatever. Do you know how many red cards did you see?
A lot of red cars.
You would be like,
I'll
oh,
be like,
you would be like counting and looking for them, right? Like
yeah,
you would be like
yeah,
looking for them. And I think this is us. Like when you ask for something, I'm like, hey, what would it take to this for be my reality? Then you invite all of the information and everything into your life. And I like to use this example because we are not paying attention, and the universe is like showing us all the time everything that would allow you to create the life that you really want, but you just like blah blah blah, 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 blah. You're not
yeah.
listening, you're not watching. And it's interesting because when you want something and you ask for something, because that's what I tell people all the time. What if like gratitude is not something that you do, like, okay, I'm grateful because I have two legs, two arms, I have a job, I have a roof above my head. What if you do every single morning when you wake up, you say, okay, universe, what can I be grateful for today? Show me. And
Yeah.
then it's gonna show you, and but you have to pay attention. You have to look for them like they would pay you $10 or $10,000 for every each which you're willing to receive or see. And this is what was a big deal for me, and something that it changed my whole entire life when I started to create my life from this really new space. When every single morning I was like, okay, so universe, show me some magic today. Like, show me something that I will be like, wow, I can't believe this, that this has just happened to me. And you know, when you ask for magic and miracles, and you actually are like, okay, I'm here, I'm looking for that, and you gonna see those things. And that what changed my life big time. This is when I started, okay, I need to give up being a fucking victim all the time, because that's what I did for
That's a big
most
one.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know
But
what about you, but me, I grew up in a household where that was,
victims.
even in my grandparents' marriage and also in my parents' marriage, is like someone always played the victim card, and I became one of them. And you know, it was just a lot of work for me to get out of that, because even today, sometimes I know when I'm starting to go down that road, when I start feeling, oh, poor me, you look at these people. It's a big one.
Yeah, but you also know when you start going there, which is such a gift, because that's I think one of the big keys to this, to rebooting your life, creating something different, is getting out of judgment of yourself. So, because judgment is one of the greatest ways to make yourself a victim. You know, you could sit around all day and judge yourself. That's great. What does it do? It creates more of what you're judging, rather than go, what if every choice that, because I don't know about you, Nikolett, but I can speak truly for myself. I have made a lot of shitty choices. Like a lot.
No.
Probably more than you.
No. I think we are kind of
This
equal.
is not a competition, people. You don't have to put in the chat that you win.
I made so many shitty choices, so many of them. Man, sometimes it was still embarrassing me when I think about those. I'm like, oh no.
And how much of them was still part of the gift of who you are now. And that's an interesting thing to look at, because one of the things I looked at for myself was there was a lot of things that I chose that were they were directly against who I would like to be in the world. Like they were just chosen from this space of not being me. And I always, like, I'd have so much judgment of things like that. And I started looking at it and I was going, okay, so what if I had to actually choose that? What if I had to go away from me in each of those moments so that I actually knew how to get to me? And this in your life, see, because a lot of people, if you've got victim mentality, you can't even look at something like that. But if you can look at it like that and go, okay, so what's the gift in even the choices that I judge, that if I could see them as a gift, would create some different possibility? And, you know, when I started looking at things different like that, it was like, oh, because there's no way to go to, there's no real place to go to being a victim when you look at it like that. It's like, okay, every choice is a choice. Every choice has created something. What did it create?
Wow. Yeah. I agree. My whole entire life was an effect of this, because I always felt I was a victim of everything, and I just wanted to, change somehow. And for me, the biggest choice that started to help me to change this was when, I don't know, I might heard this from you at some point in classes. I think you were talking about something, you being vulnerable with yourself and with what's going on. And I realized at some point that I'm not able to change anything that I want to change if I'm not willing to see everything I am, like even the bad part of me, even the good part. And also today, I had a couple things going on, and I could go make myself wrong or someone else make wrong. And I realized that one of the biggest gifts I have is now, it wasn't so, but now is that even when I am not choosing something amazing, I can be with myself and I can change it. Because before I was avoiding it, I didn't want to see when I was making choices that didn't create the greatest for my life. And nowadays I'm like, I think this is what takes you on this, how would you say that, do you know at the airport when you have those lines that makes you go faster?
The conveyor belt. Yeah.
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 I feel sometimes I'm stepping on that when I'm vulnerable with myself, even with the bad part of my being, like with my choices and what I'm choosing and what I'm doing. And that's so amazing, because I'm even faster, I'm even able to change what I want to change faster when I am being vulnerable with myself. And I see people avoiding what they are doing and choosing so much, and they just want to look good. You know, they don't want to be judged, or they just want to create this image of themselves, and everything that go against that, they just try to avoid and just make everything around that thing. And I don't judge that, but I can see why their lives are so slow, or why things are not getting created. And I think that's a big one also, just being super vulnerable. And yeah, you make bad choices. You are not always the perfect one, but it's still, when you can be vulnerable with that and see when you are shitty, you can actually change that finally.
Well, I want to look at the way you put that, because that was beautiful. Because that would be kind of almost counterintuitive to the way that we would see that. A lot of people see vulnerability as a weakness, for example. But the way you just put it, and it's so true, that you make a choice to go, you know what, I'm going to be vulnerable with this. I'm going to put my walls and barriers down to this, and I'm going to be vulnerable with it. And first of all, I want to say, for people who have no idea how to get to that, is ask for it. It's like with anything. You said something similar earlier on in this, where you ask for more gratitude. You just ask, what's it going to take for me to be more grateful today? And same with vulnerability. What's it going to take for me to be more vulnerable today? But putting it, I like the way that you put it, with basically it's like getting on, it's a fast track into a different possibility, you know. And because I know the same for me, like I don't necessarily like myself that much when I'm all rigid and, you know, just, you know, and this person did this and I did this, and, you know, and it's this, and walls up, barriers up, trying to be right or trying to be wrong or trying to be something. Yeah. But I know for me, very similar in those moments where I ask for, okay, what's it going to take for me to be more vulnerable with this? And who am I being? And then something will crack. And it's interesting because it's you perceive yourself letting the world in again, and everything doesn't become about control, and everything becomes possible again. And if we're willing to, once again, ask for more of that in our lives, what else is possible?
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you. And yeah, can I add a couple questions to this?
Yes. Because you need to. You're busting. I have questions. I have questions.
I want to add, like, yes, like to yours. I would add also, because when I am in the situation like that, what you just said, like, who am I being? Sometimes I don't even know who am I being, but I know it's not me.
Yeah.
And for me, just that information, just itself, like, oh, okay, it's not me. Okay. And I like to, like, when I am going down that road, I like to add also, like, what am I proving?
Yep.
What am I defending and what am I avoiding with this? And I love, so at the class that we had at the castle, at the Bingu class, we were actually talking a lot about this, because, you know, many times when you ask these questions, you don't really know what you were avoiding, but it brings up some energies and you're able to clear finally. And that changes so much. And honestly, I know about myself that I was proving something in my whole entire life. I had to prove everything. I had to prove my being. I have to prove who I was. I had to prove my right choices. I had to prove that I'm not stupid. I'm not that. I'm not this. And it was just so exhausting for me. And when I started to take access classes, that was one of the first things that I realized, oh my God, I can't live like this anymore. Like it was interesting being in a class. I tried to get the facilitator judge me, and I couldn't. And it was annoying. I'm like, I came here, you guys have to judge me. No one is judging me. Annoying. And then I went.
How do I know how to relate to you people if you won't judge me?
Yes.
What is your problem?
And I went back to my life, I met my friends and I was fighting with them like crazy. I just wanted to be right. And I realized I had many relationships where we did nothing, just fight on nothing. Fight on like, I am right. No, that's not that. No, 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 that's not true. Okay, let me check. Let me Google it. And then we are like, oh, like, I Google it too. No, this article says that. And that, and like, and I realized I can't live like this anymore. I just can't do that. And you know, when you see that in your life, like when you're fighting with your friends, that one thing. But then when it comes down to this fine proving, when you're just, you don't even know you are doing it, but you still being that energy, that was a big game changer for me when I could see in every situation, even though when I was sending a message. So what I was doing for 2 years, every single message before I sent it to anyone, I asked the question, what am I creating with this message? Am I proving something with this, or I'm just creating something? And I realized 90% of the message I sent to any of my friends or anyone, I wanted to prove something. It was behind everything I was doing was that energy. It was fascinating for me to see that.
Okay, this I've got to jump in here because this is where, like, I see for a lot of people would look at, okay, how do I get there? But I just want to get there. I want to get to some freedom with this, but I just want to get there. But they don't want to do the choice each moment of what it takes to actually create it. That one thing there, that one thing alone, if you looked at the choices you make and went, okay, what am I choosing this for? I'm choosing it to be right. You can still choose it, but at least now you know what you're choosing it for, and you don't have to have some, like, it can be, that's vulnerability with yourself.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm choosing this to be right. I like being right. Okay, cool. What's the problem with that? But now I know what I'm choosing it for. I don't have to prove against it. And I want to say this because it's so helpful with this proving thing, because one of the things we do with proving, we basically use proving as a way to defend against the judgments that we have. And this was really helpful for me because I've had so many things in my life where I had, like, for example, I had a judgment of myself of just being like wrong all the time. So one of the things that I would do with that was I'd always have to try and prove that I was right. And we prove the opposite of what we've decided we are or what we've judged ourselves as. So that tool that you gave in there, what am I avoiding, what am I defending, and what am I proving, is so good to get the awareness of that. Because what would it be like if you just had freedom with choice? If you didn't have to prove it, if you didn't have to use it to prove anything. And so many tools. Oh boy.
Yeah, like when you were talking, I could just share 5 of them. They're so amazing.
Well, yeah.
That's so amazing.
And we're doing a free webinar that's
Yes.
going to be an ass kicker.
Yes, it's going to be an ass kicker. It's a free webinar, 3 parts. I just get all the info here. So the title is Living the Life You Always Wanted. And we are going to have 3 calls every month. We're going to start in July, if I'm right. So we're going to get the dates. I'm sure Chris has them. So the first call is getting your butt into gear. And the second one is liking yourself along the way. And the third one is creating beyond tomorrow. Do you want to say something about all of it? Because you were the one who came up with titles, and I think it's amazing. Because can I say something before you jump in? Just one thing.
Yeah, of course.
What I am getting into more and more, so I came from a really poor family. And for me, the biggest thing was changing my money situation. And I also had always the pull to create something amazing, like a company or something that it never existed before. And I really cut off, like I was just on, when I was thinking about creating a bigger life or create a life that I wanted, it always came to having money. And what I'm realizing more and more now, that is actually not the case. So when I had a conversation with someone a couple of weeks ago, and she asked me, okay, hey, Nikolett, how do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, let's say I'm going to be 43 years old. Like, who are you going to be when you're 43? And it was like a good question. Like, oh, I like this. And I was like, okay, I have a short and I have a long answer. Like, which one you want? And she's like, both. Okay. And I realized something by giving the answer. I realized when I said my short answer, it was kind of, I just want to create something that never existed before, something that changes people's life and changes my life. And then I jumped on the long answer. I'm like, oh, and I want a bigger house. I want this car. I want this, that, and that. And I realized all of that doesn't really matter, because when you're going for the short answer, what you really want to create in life, then, everything else going to be just the byproduct. The money going to be the byproduct. The house going to be the byproduct. And I think it's so important when we think about like creating the life you actually want. What do you want beyond all of the money and house and relationships and all of that? Like, why did you came here to create, or why did you came here? And that was just so amazing for me. It changed my perspective on every creation I do. It was just amazing.
I like that. I like the way that you looked at it like that too, because I see for a lot of us, we do that, like with the long answer. Let me define it all, and let me define it all so that I can have it all. But it doesn't work that way. Rather than, what is it I truly desire? And I see for a lot of people, they get like, that will be a stopping point for people, because they're like, oh, I don't know, or I don't know what it is that I truly want. Well, is that true? Or is what you actually desire to be creating as your life and your future, is it more so that doesn't match the structures that you've created or the reality you've created yourself as? And for a lot of us, that's where it's at, is you're like, you know what, I know what I truly desire to create, but I won't even let myself see that, because if I was to actually see that, then my whole life would have to change. My point of view about myself would have to change. My point of view about the way that I see myself in the world would have to change. And that's the part there that you would have to be willing to lose the image that you've created yourself as. Yes. And I think that's great. I think that's a great way of looking at it. And the first, the first one that I also want to say to people as well is, where you're at right now, what if that truly is a gift? Like, if you're watching this right now and then you've gone into more judgment of yourself because I actually really don't know what I want, and I don't have any money, and I feel like I can't create my life. And hey, been there.
That's so good. I love that. I've been there. I didn't know 5 years ago what I wanted. It was just 5 years ago. I didn't know.
Yeah. And so you are not wrong for that. What if that could be the beginning, the first brick in a new platform that you can build your life from? What if truly, and this is not an easy one to hear when you're good at making yourself wrong, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's actually true. What if you are not wrong? What if you never have been wrong? What if there's nothing wrong with your life right now? And what if you could begin from this point to create something different? And so with this, getting your butt in gear, the first one, I had, and I still have traces of this a lot show up. Cause that's the other thing is, like, for a lot of us, we tend to have some main elements that we are sensitized to energetically. So what I mean by that is, if you grew up with a lot of poverty, then you tend to have that structured into your reality as something that you may seem to get away from a little bit. You might go, oh man, I'm having ease with money finally. And then you're like, oh, where did that go? You know, why do I feel poor again? Because it's part of what you've structured your reality as. And this is how change works, is you move through it. And so one of the things I always had was I could never create my life. Someone else would need to do it for me, preferably a woman and preferably a relationship.
That's so fun. We should have been in a relationship, because I had the same with men. We could just kill each other.
We would have been hopeless. Yeah, we would have. Yeah, Nikolett and Brendon won't be live because they killed each other. Yeah, they got into a relationship and killed each other.
So funny.
But so I've had that. So getting my butt into gear meant finding somebody who could create my life for me, you know, and for so long I had that as such a wrongness. So what did I do? Remember, anything that you have a judgment of yourself, you prove against that. So what I would do is I would go, no, I can create my life. I can create my own life, but I was proving against the judgment that I had of myself, which basically eliminates everything that you can be in order to create. And I bring that up because what if nothing had to change before you can make a different choice? Like, what if your life didn't have to change, your problems didn't have to go away, your point of view about yourself none of that needed to change before you could make a different choice and get your butt into gear? You know what? Even if I have to drag all of these problems along with me, I'm moving forward. Not I'm going to stay here and wait until I fix every single problem and my life is perfect enough for all the lights to be green in front of me so that I can take that first step. What if you could just take the first step?
Wow. Yeah, I always say the same, because I always created big dramas in my life to, start changing it. And I always tell people, like, you don't have to be Nikolett. You can just change it right now if you choose. And I think demanding the change from you, it's just a big part of that. I wish I knew before that one of the elements of creation is demanding yourself to change anything that you wish to change and create anything that you wish. And I remember for many, many years, every single morning I got into shower and I was like, I demanded myself. I'm like, I don't know what it takes. I don't know who I have to lose. I don't know what I have to. I'm changing this. And that energy, it's so powerful. And that is one of the skill that we have, and one of the tool that we have. And we are using demand on other people and the universe. They're like demanding everyone around us, but not demanding us. And what I tell always everyone in class is like, hey, demand works. You demand yourself and ask everyone else. You have to ask the universe. You have to ask other people to do things and have help, or you can ask for help. But like yourself, you always have to demand. Don't demand other people around you, because that's not going to work. And people do the opposite. Like, that's why I always say, I think life works the opposite way, how we live it and how we do it. And that's what creates a big like chaos in our words. But it's just so interesting when you are willing to demand yourself. And I'm so demanding with myself, which can be interesting for my team, because when I'm demanding myself, they feel like I'm demanding them, because it's like so powerful. They're like, oh my God, no, what's going on? And I'm like, hey guys, you just don't worry, you do your thing. I'm like, I'm going. And I'm like, I'm just going. And it's just so amazing. And I think this is when you start to reboot your life, and you are demanding yourself the change that you want, and you just go for it.
Yeah. Yep. Command of you, request of the universe.
Yes. It's just so amazing. Okay. So you have to talk about, so I have to share with you guys one thing. I've been to Rome last year, November, And I've been to a 5-day class with Dr. Dane, and Brendon was on the same class. And every single day after class, I was hiding in my room. And so Brendon, you texted me. He's like, "Hey, Nikolett, what's up?" I'm like, he just kind of get the sense that I'm just dying in my room. And I'm like,
Been there,
I don't
done
want to
it.
go. I'm like, I don't want to go out. I kind of feel like I do room service. And he's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I just can't do this. Like, I feel so bad. I'm so uncomfortable. I just hate this. I don't know. I have to leave. I should just go home." I'm like, "This is the worst week of my life." And he's like, "That's just fine. Welcome to Maestro class." And he said, "You said two things, which I tell everyone. I always say, I got it from you. So I just share with everyone." You said, "When I am in that state, I do two things. I am being in allowance of myself, and I'm being kind to myself." And I was like, "Oh, I was doing none of them." And I realized, wow, I can just allow the change to occur so fast if I'm willing to be with what it is, allowing all the thing that comes up, and just being kind to myself. And I realized, being there, I never been kind to myself in my life. Really. Never before.
And I get you, sister. I totally get you. But that's a choice also that you made. It was like, with that, because for a lot of us, we've learned that everything should be difficult. Change should be hard. Like, creating a different life should be hard, and all of that. And I can say this from a lot of experience, and with what you were going through, it can be extremely uncomfortable. Like, when you're up against seeing yourself not as who you've been pretending you are, that is really uncomfortable.
Oh my God. It is so uncomfortable.
And I had to learn with that, because I don't know about you, but for me, my whole life, I beat the shit out of myself. I have been my hardest critic, like you wouldn't believe. And it's like, as if that was a way to change anything. But that was a total structure that I bought from the people that I grew up with. And for me, very similar to what you talked about before with the vulnerability as a fast track into something different. Kindness is that for me also. And they go very hand in hand. But if you can't have kindness for yourself in change, then what's the joy in changing? Like, what if changing could be joyful even when it's really uncomfortable? Wow. And I remember that class.
Remember?
Well, the thing I love too is I've been around a while now, so I've been to a lot, I've been around a while. So I'm in a class like that, and I feel like my whole universe is just crashing around me. And I see other people who are doing it too, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. I know where you're at. It's all good. Don't worry, it gets easier. I promise you, it gets easier.
I'm just looking for this quote I got the other day. I have to find it. It was just what we are talking about now with different words. And I have to find it. Oh, please give it to me. It was here.
Well, you could just tell people.
Oh, I find it. It says, enjoy being in the process of becoming.
Wow.
See that? It was a game changer for me, because this is what you just said. Like, I had the point of view that change has to be hard and always uncomfortable, which is not actually true.
Yeah. And then see, one of the things with that, because you're definitely not alone in that one, is your point of view creates your reality. So when we presume something like that and go, you know what, change is going to be hard, or you know, creating a different life is going to be hard, and everyone's not going to like me, and it's going to look like this, and it has to show up. You know, all of those things that we tend to do, is that's exactly the way it has to show up for you to know that it's showing up. And so this is why I love Access. There is nothing I've ever found that even comes close to the way it looks at everything energetically like that. Because see, the thing that, if we look at that alone, of your point of view creates your reality. So anything that you have as a point of view, nothing can come in that doesn't match it. Here's the interesting thing that I've found with that is 99% of those points of view are energetic. We don't even realize we have them. So you're going, why won't my money situation change? Like, I'm hearing Nikolett talk about this thing of making a demand. I'm doing that. Like, and I'm looking at who does it belong to, and I'm doing that. And I've got, you know, I'm using these tools and I'm doing that. Why doesn't it seem to change? Well, there is so many different things, but with that is, how many points of view do you have that it will never change? Like, one of a really cool question that I use with everything that doesn't seem to shift or move is, what have I decided is unchangeable about this that's actually changeable? And I want to give people before, and then I'm going to shut up because we're doing 3 calls.
Yeah, I know. But that's fine.
Is don't stop. Like, there is literally things that I have been quote unquote trying to change for years that have changed a little bit, but still have, you know, parts and pieces of them there. Never give in, never give up, and never quit, and you will get through it. And if you can do that, if you can have that as your point of view, never give in, never give up, and never quit, and also begin to come out of this thing where you look at anything as wrong and look at, okay, so what's the gift in this? Like, if you have something there that you have put in place, something in your life, say, that's not working, something that whatever that is, something that you have there that's not working. What if you have put it in place there not to work, so that you would finally choose to become something different, so that you would finally choose to become more of who you actually are? And if you can look at things like that, the world becomes a different place, because everything is there to contribute. Nothing is there to become something that you have to defend against, you have to avoid, you have to, you know, make yourself wrong with. Everything can be okay. Everything can be about, okay, what's the gift in this? What gift can this be if I'm not in judgment of it? So get your butts to the webinars. There you go.
Yeah, I'm not even saying anything else, because this is just like the best end of this conversation.
It's going to be so good. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, me too. So guys, you can join us. We're going to have 3 calls. You can sign up nikolett.com/living. We're going to put the links everywhere, so you're going to find it in the comment section and you can sign up. We're going to have translation to different languages.
Can I say one other thing?
Yes.
I just got to acknowledge you, because Nikolett and I have had a couple of conversations where you were like, I'm a little bit nervous about my English and you know, and facilitating in English. You're amazing. Like,
you guys, so I have to share with you something. I'm terrified, because I'm going to have a foundation class with Brendon in September. I'm listening to so many classes with you, because I have taken many classes before with you, like COPs, and I had to do a relationship class you and Simone did, maybe in Vienna, I can remember. So I like a couple of classes, and I'm like, I have to listen, because I realized one thing, and it's so true. So I don't know if you knew that Hungarian is basically the most difficult language in the world, and we have all these sayings and things, and I get so used to using those words, and my brain trying to translate, but there are no words. You cannot translate those things. It's just not possible. And I just have to let go of that idea. And thank you so much for saying that, because I actually realized that it's getting better. So I'm not being so judgmental with myself, and it's awesome.
Well,
I think,
and what extreme awareness of energy have you always had too? Like, it's like there are some days where I don't even understand English, but I'm definitely aware of the energy. You know,
yes,
and that's what another beautiful thing about Access Consciousness is about empowering each and every person to know that they know, but in that, empowering each and every person to know that they know that to know that they know that they're different, and no one knows like you do, no one knows like I do.
yes,
And that's a beautiful thing. To what is it, what way, in what way do you hear the world that you've never acknowledged? You know, and
yeah.
I think if just what, second most, I don't know what's happening, but there you go.
So, so you guys can join us here in Budapest with Brendon. We're gonna have a foundation class in the end of September, which is super exciting. We're gonna have a lot of translation as well, so you're not gonna miss out if you don't speak Hungarian or English. And I'm actually super excited now about this webinar, because we're gonna share a lot of things, and it's free. You can invite the world, and we would be super grateful with Brendon if you would invite and would support me on my first English webinar series. Thank you so much.
Oh, you got it. We're good. Like, hey, we
Yeah,
good.
I think it's going to be amazing. So you guys, we're going to send out emails. You can sign up for emails also on Brendon's website. So you can sign up for the newsletter. You can sign up in our website. We're going to have everything on the Facebook pages, and we're going to share everything in our channels. So it's going to be everywhere. So we're going to spread the info. But before everything, you can sign up on nikolett.com/living and join us with Brendon for 3 amazing part of this teleco. And let's see, when are they? Because I have in my calendar, but I'm not. Chris knows better than I do. June 25th.
Yeah, he put in there before. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. So the first one is on June 25th. And
That's
then
soon. Oh my goodness.
it is. And the second one, we're going to be in Dubai. It's going to be, yeah, the first one is June 25th. And then we're going to have the second one is 21st of July. And the last part is going to be in August on the 27th. Yeah, amazing. Every month, we're going to see each other every month, Brendon. What do you think?
Yeah.
Amazing.
People might start talking. Oh my goodness.
Oh, again. They just stopped talking now. They have to start talking again. Can I just say something? Like, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful you're doing this with me, and supporting me to get out to the world. You don't even know you are doing that, but you are, and I'm so grateful. And you are amazing. And so many people might don't know. You just changed my entire business with one question. And I shared this in an audio. So when I started, I was creating my own website. And from the very beginning, I really wanted to accurate on everything. So I had all these legal documents and everything on my website. And the first day of your class on the morning, I was drinking my coffee at the Castello, and I get a message from my assistant. She sent me a screenshot that someone actually take the whole legal stuff out of our website and put it on hers. Like, she didn't change a word. Like, it was just, I'm like, fuck, this is my stuff. Come on. So when in class, I was super upset, and I stand at the mic and I'm like, hey, Brendon, I have a question. I'm like, I fucking hate this. Everyone is fucking copying me. And Brendon looked at me and you said, hey, Nikolett, what would it take for you for 10,000 people copying you? I was standing there and my word was just like broken down to pieces. I'm like, oh my God. Yes, thank you. And I'm like, No more questions. Thank you. And I just
mic drop. Thank you, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen. No more. There'll be no more questions from me today.
And I know I told you this so many times, but I never shared front of a big audience. You are just an amazing facilitator, and I'm so grateful. You asked me a couple of questions along the way that brought me where I am at. I know it's my choice also, but I want to acknowledge that for you. You are amazing and so grateful.
And so are you. And also thank you for that. But also thank you for thank you for trusting me. I know it's been an interesting journey for you. And I'd also like to say to you, like, you set the bar fucking high, sister. So
let's go.
Let's go. Like you are an inspiration. And so I think hey, join us on the webinar. Let's see where that goes.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying now.
And I also want to say thank you for everyone who is behind the scenes. It's so many people, guys. It's not just me and Brendon. It's so many amazing translators, Joya, Chris, and all of our teams. And it's been a really nice creation. And we are so grateful for each of you.
You guys
thank you
are
so
phenomenal.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikolett.
Brendon. Thank you. And thank you, all of you. See you guys on the webinar. Sign up and join us. It's going to be fun.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye, guys.